What's going on, everybody? So today what I'm going to be going through is rebuilding my CMS, or my customer management system, in Airtable. So I built this system about 2 years ago, originally when I was probably before I had really started anything, and it's outdated. It has not quite the proper relationships in it between the different types of data. And so today we're going to go through rebuilding and designing that new workspace, or that new Airtable database, based on lots of notes I've collected of what works, what doesn't work over the last few months. And I do already have some of it organized, but we're going to be going through all of that in first a tool called Rome Research, which is kind of a way to document what your thoughts are and connect all your thoughts so you don't have to remember things as much. And then we're going to build that out visually in a tool called Miro. So without further ado, we'll jump right into it. And this is stuff that I usually help clients with. I help them build these same systems. I haven't had a chance to do it in the last 2 years, but I was like, I need to update the systems. I need to make it more usable for myself. That way I can handle more clients. Just some growing pains with the current system is it only supports me. If I were to hire anybody, it does not support me to hire anybody very effectively. And as I've grown, I've been dealing with larger clients, and originally it was meant for clients that were essentially just one person. So that's what I'm going to be going through, is how I'm going to make those changes. So this is a tool called Rome, as you can see, and today we're going to be building out the customer operating system, or rebuilding the OIS, stands for Optimized Information Systems, which is the name of my business. And then CMS is the customer management system. So currently this is pretty much the structure. Currently it's very messy because I've been testing out some different things in it over the past few weeks to try to make it more usable for clients. And this is where it's at right now. Most things in here have not changed in, like I said, over 2 years now. So currently I have a table of contacts, which is like my source of truth for almost everything. Everything starts with the contact, and it still will start with the contact in the new system, but you'll see some changes. So currently I have contacts. One contact has some communication linked to them. I currently just have all my emails synced in from Gmail that filter out things that go to promotions, things that have unsubscribe in them. But I have all my emails going into Airtable. I used to manually log consultations, but I made a way where I could automatically update somebody's status by doing a consultation pre-filled form. I don't plan on doing that anymore because I do things just a little bit differently. And Airtable's released these things called interfaces that should replace that functionality anyways. Another table that I had in the system was called hours, and that was pretty straightforward. I used this tool called Toggle to track my time, and every time I would stop Toggle, it would add a new time entry. And this has been very functional for the past, like just these things, and then the next tab, which is invoices. These have been very functional. It's gotten me, I think we've done over 500,000 in sales. Like it scaled up to 100 clients, more than 100 clients, very well. It's just time for a change, because if I want to do more, I need to have sanity that like my systems are in check. That way I can better help clients. So yeah. Other tables that I had reviews. So I had been logging reviews coming in from different sources, so I could kind of see which clients had left me a review, which clients had not left me a review, and I wanted to reach out to. Resources. So these were primarily me logging every time that a client would share like a Google Doc with me, or a Google Sheet, or other tools that I needed to log and keep track of. Those would show up there. Another thing was reporting. So this is something I build out all the time for clients, but it showed up in my database as well. A very early version of it that has been since improved for clients. But time-based reporting, this one was specifically daily reporting. I was trying to figure out cool ways where I could see and project my income over the month. So this is pretty much all of the tabs in my current system. Now, some issues that I was facing is here with hours, an issue that I had was so this is an issue with the automation, not so much the actual database, but the automation, as soon as I would stop the timer, it would go into Airtable. And sometimes I want to like edit the timer after it stops. So I want to add like maybe more context to what it says. But now with the plane I'm on in Zapier, it triggers pretty much instantly because it's like a 2-minute or a 1-minute timer. And so sometimes it just ends up right in Airtable and I'm still typing. Or maybe I want to shorten the time up afterwards in Airtable. So those are a few things that happen that I want to fix with hours. Another thing that I want to add in here is the ability to have more than just myself as a user in here. So I have hours. I want to be able to track hours for different team members. With contacts, or I want to be able to do that easily. Contacts is currently my database of customers, but as I've grown, I've had more enterprise customers, larger businesses where I have usually almost every time one main point of contact, but I want to be able to have multiple contacts and tie them all to just one entity. So those are a few things I'm looking to change. Also, communication being only emails. I'm looking to improve that. And sorry if you can hear the dogs playing in the background. But yeah, looking to expand communication, as you'll see. So let's go into what is next for the Airtable. And also I would mention the current system is in Airtable. So this is some of the stuff that's going to be in the next system. I'll go through these each one by one. So the first thing is I'm going to be building out more robust communication. So previously I had emails, which was great. I loved it. I didn't have to leave Airtable to see my last email with a client, with a prospect, with anybody like that. It would just come in automatically. It was amazing. I'm looking to combine reviews into communication. I'm thinking about communication more broadly as like a series of events that happens with a client or with a contact usually. So yeah, I'm looking to just expand this a little bit more and have different communication types. Sorry again if you can hear the dogs. Looking to have a few different communication types. All my Calendly calls I'm looking to sync in here. One note that I would add on this is, I added in here. So every client books Calendly calls with me. We have meetings. The next actions, tasks, adding tasks while I'm looking at a call with a client. That follows a system that I've been learning that was recommended from a friend called Getting Things Done. It's a great book. I've been studying that kind of methodology recently. So that's something I'm looking forward to implementing. So certain calls are just booked once and they happen and then they're done. Other calls they are recurring. So like I'll set up a calendar for recurring meetings that I want to be able to add tasks to kind of in perpetuity, and they just always show up in my like this week's calls. So part of this is I want to be able to see my upcoming calls from Airtable so that I can easily go in and say, when I jump on a call, I can open up that call in the interface and I can take notes. I can add next actions, and for those recurring ones, I can just have a list of notes that have been taken from previous meetings. So that's pretty much what I'm going to have for calls. I'm going to incorporate documents into this. So every time I get shared on a document, I will do my best to add it to the communication, because it's like at this point in time, they shared this document with me. So there'll probably be these 4 types of communication, and I might capture a little bit of different information on each of them. Now, one thing I would love to put into communication, but at this point I don't think I will be able to, just because of the nature of how it's getting pulled in and how I want to pull it in, are Zoom recordings. So Zoom recordings I'm going to be pulling in via a Google Drive sync. So every time I have a Zoom call, I have a Zap that adds it to Google Drive. And then what I'm going to do eventually, because I've ran into historical issues with having too much storage used up in Zoom that I get billed a ton, is I'm going to have Integromat, or now make.com, I'm going to have it delete the recording as well. And also a lot of the Zaps that I've built, I plan to document rebuilding those in Integromat and seeing if I can lower my Zapier bill and showing you guys how to rebuild those in Integromat. So the next thing on the list are these tasks. So again, I think this is following that getting things done methodology with tasks and making sure I'm splitting them up in the proper way. I'll go into more detail when we actually end up building this system, but for tasks, it's splitting them up into next action, later, watch, which may mean like it's assigned to somebody else, and other categories that was recommended to me by a good friend. Those categories are also defined in this blog post on using Gmail in the same way, but we will get into that later on. So contacts will stay very similar to how it is currently set up. However, it won't be my new source of truth. The new source of truth will, instead of contacts, it will be companies. So currently I have all the invoices, like the number of hours purchased, the number of hours used, all of that rolling up to the contact, but now I want to transition that to be up to the company. So the company, one thing I don't yet have, but I do for every client manually, is I auto-generate a new Miro board for each new client. Or I manually do that currently. I want to automatically do that with, I know it's possible with Zapier. I'll look into if it's possible with Integromat. I would also love to see if I can use a template of mine, or if it has to be just a blank one, which either is fine. Just something I'm looking into. So the next thing is going to be hours. It's that same toggle integration, but with curing that pain point that I mentioned earlier. So instead of just automatically adding it to Airtable, I'm going to add a delay of like 5 minutes to it, have it go update the timer, or like maybe search for the timer entry, and then that should return. If I updated it in toggle, then I don't have to fear that it's going to show something different in Airtable, because it will be solved. Invoices. I currently have one table with all my invoices, and then if it's paid or not, it just has a status change. I think I'm going to keep that the same way. My only thoughts on that is it currently like waits 2 minutes from every payment to say, yes, it was successful because of just the timing. So we may do something interesting with the automation there again to see if we can get payments to come in without a delay, which that would be very nice. But either way, we'll have a table for invoices again. Now, one of the big, lots of notes on this one. One of the big additions to the system will be a proper task management system and a proper, something closer to what people build into Jira, but a way to manage clients and their projects and milestones and the users and user stories. So I want to build that into this Airtable customer management system. This is really niche to exactly what I do, which is build software solutions just like we're building here, but for clients. So these are just a few things we'll be adding. Our table for different user stories, a table for those different users, and then we're going to be enabling clients to be able to see their user stories and see the tasks and see the milestones all in an Airtable interface, but only be able to see theirs, if that makes sense. So they won't be able to see other of my clients' user stories or milestones or tasks, only theirs. Same with hours and invoices and contacts and communication. Now the next thing in here is going to be the team. So this is a table, I don't think it exists in my current system. I'm going to expand this table because I've seen this, we've done it really well with a few clients, where the team also serves as a funnel for an applicant tracking system. So this follows very similar concepts to how the company's table will work, but new leads come in, new applicants come in, they go through a hiring process, and eventually they might become an active employee, and then inactive potentially as well. But this will be a nice addition to the system, is managing the team through there. Reporting, we will get into a lot of time-based reporting in the future. This was recommended to me, or not recommended. I first learned about some of this reporting from Camille Parks, who is an awesome inspiration for a lot of the things that I built in Airtable. She did this really awesome time-based reporting base that I have expanded on and made it useful for myself and made it very useful for customers. So these are a few different these are a few different metrics I'm looking to build into reporting, all based on different times. So you could say years, quarters, months, weeks, days, that kind of stuff. So this is something that I plan on giving visibility to as many people as I can. One of the core concepts from, what was the book? It's called The Great CEO Within, was radical transparency. One of my goals with this is to kind of take that to the extreme definition and make things publicly visible. Do a lot of these builds in public. Let you guys see the numbers behind everything. Let you guys see how all of this is set up, even down to the next step, which are the processes or the protocols. So currently I'm working on building out and writing out all the different processes for, like, for example, every time I send a sales email, recording how I wrote it, the way I wrote it. Every time well, not every single time, but once doing this so that I can train team members, but how I manage my time using Toggle, or how I track my time using Toggle, how I respond to customers' messages in Slack. So all of those are different processes that I'm looking to document, maybe even upload to YouTube, expose the Google Doc. If anybody wants to give feedback on them, they could, or you can just learn from them and see kind of the progression of some of these protocols. Another thing in here are transactions. I added a few things to the end here. I don't think I'll put in the first version of this, but I am looking to the future to add these and make sure that, like, this is I would say phase 1 was what I built 2 years ago. This is 2.0, what we're building here. These are a few things I anticipate adding into 3.0. So not right now, but in the future. I want to be able to track transactions and allocate them to clients if that's applicable. Currently, I use a tool called Finta to pull in all of my bank accounts, transactions into Airtable. It's called finta.io, and that's the website. It's amazing. This is probably going to be for phase 3 though. It's integrating that with the CRM. This is going to be another thing that's really cool, is estimates. So because I'm tracking all my time, kind of my vision for 3.0 of this is to break down each client's business into the number of things that I've built for them. And so breaking that down into the number of tables, the number of automations, the number of fields, the number of lots of different things like that. So I can estimate kind of the relative value units, which is a concept I got from my mom who works in counseling. The relative value unit for each of those. That way when I'm doing estimates, I have numbers I can pull from. So I've seen this done very well with a few of my clients in their business in different estimating tools we built, but this is something I'm looking to implement for myself to say, this is like the actual cost rather than kind of, this is how much that similar system took for this client, this is how much that similar system took for this client. I'm looking to build out more of a calculator so that estimates can be much more precise based on the actual numbers behind how long and how much value one automation will give you, how long and how much value how long it'll take to build, how much value it'll take to build two databases with 5 tables each and 10 automations. So those are just a few examples of building out the estimates tracker. Then the last thing are resources. Resources are broken down into Calendly calls and a few other things. I intend to give clients just kind of a one-stop shop in this Airtable interface to view all of these things, as well as get their resources. So resources for them to start off, it's just going to look like the Calendly links for them to book Calendly calls. But yeah, that's what it's going to start off as. All right, so let's jump into Miro and I'll walk through how each of these things looks in Miro for the new system. So that looks like communication, these Zoom calls, hours, and voices. We'll map out some of the technical requirements to build all of these things. So I'm going to pull this over to the side. We'll go through this here. So some of this I had built out in a previous video, and so I was reviewing it before this, and I am going to use this as the template for us to build on top of here today. So each one of these that you see here, each thing here, each of these are different tables in Airtable, and these will actually be the tables we build into the system. So we're going to first start off with everything down here because we've already talked about many of these things. CRM activities is what I was calling communication, and so I just want to make sure I've added everything here. So these are emails, audit call recaps, ConvertKit tags, and added to ConvertKit. I want to add a few things like Calendly calls. I want to say date, type, excerpt, link to tasks, and it's obviously going to be linked to clients. Some other things that I mentioned I wanted to include in this are documents and reviews. So we started off with communication. So what is communication linked to? Each piece of communication is linked to a contact. So for example, if it was a document, I would link to the person who shared it. If it's an email, I would link to the people who were on that email. If it's a ConvertKit tag added, I would link to the email of the contact who got the tag added. Same thing with Calendly calls, as it's like who's on that Calendly call. So that's the first thing. The next thing is going to be Zoom call recordings. Zoom call recordings. So most likely the way the Zoom call recordings are going to work is they will be linked to, eventually I'm going to link them to the company. So one Zoom call recording to a company. One company can have many Zoom call recordings. That's how that one will work. So one company, many Zoom call recordings. Zoom call recordings, I can also anticipate them being linked to a piece of communication, so to the recurring event or to something like that. For that, I will say this is just going to be one-to-one. So it's going to be, this is how I usually do one-to-one, is every call, I guess it may or may not have a Zoom call recording, but one Zoom call recording will only be for one call. Let's see. Now, one caveat I need to add in here is if it is a call, I would want to have the type of call, because, for example, if I have a recurring call, I might have multiple Zoom call recordings. So one off recurring. So if it's a recurring call, then it may have many Zoom call recordings. So if it is a recurring, I would want to have it looking like that, except with an arrow there. So one to many is how that relationship may work. Now the next thing I'll add are tasks, and actually it's getting a little bit tight in here, so we're going to see if we can move this around a little bit. All right, so the next things are tasks. Now tasks, let's see. It appears we may need to move this up here. So tasks, they will be assigned to a contact, one contact in particular. Tasks may also be linked from a, and I suppose I should put one contact may have multiple tasks, not the other way around. One task will be linked to maybe one person to assign the task, and then one person who needs to complete the task. Each task will have a status and a due date. So then we also have CRM activities. One, for example, call may then trigger many tasks associated with it. So tasks are kind of an output of a meeting. I would also love to see if in this CRM activities I can build out a way to have minutes. So let's see, I'll put that up here in the top. So record minutes as well as have the agenda. if it's a call. And usually it's around this point when I'm thinking, okay, I'm putting a lot of stuff into these CRM activities that's specifically for a call. Do I really want it to be CRM activities and have a bunch of stuff that's only for a call, or should I just split out calls, have them separately? For now, I'm going to keep them in here. That way I can keep my structure simpler. That way it should, in my opinion, it's going to create less complexity. And I kind of want to see everything in the same view for the whole history of the client. So I want to see all the reviews they've given me, all the emails we've had back and forth, all the calls we've had booked, all the different activities, different things that happened, just kind of a whole history of everything that's happened in that CRM activities. So that's kind of the motivation for keeping it in there, even though we are adding, at this point, quite a few different fields for specifically just CRM activities that are calls. Three, so tasks. So at this point now, something I'm thinking about is, okay, so tasks are linked to contacts. Contacts are linked, okay. So one thing I'm thinking about is, this often comes up, do I want to have contacts in the same place as team members? And that is a tough question. So what I'm thinking about now is, okay, there's two really important things for the team members. So I'm going to jump down to that part of that system. So team members need to be linked to hours, tasks, and companies. Companies that they are working on that company's projects. They need to be recording their hours, so they'll be linked to. So if we add, for now we're going to list it as separate, and we'll see if that convinces me or not. So team members, they will be tracking time. Each team member may be assigned to different clients. And then one of the last things that I don't know if I'm going to have a great way of showing, unless we really rearrange this, like up here. Wow, 1 second, I'm going to rearrange this. Okay, so we're a little cleaner now. I feel like that, I think it's maybe like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme where it's like, here's what I'm building, but yeah, this is it. It's like a really complicated thing that is on like this whiteboard all strung together. But so this is where we're at. We were dealing with team members. And so team members, as we defined in our Rome, they need to be linked to companies, hours, and tasks. So team members, we have them linked to toggle, which is hours, companies, and then tasks as well. Because they will be assigned different tasks and they will agree, or they will set different tasks for themselves. So now this is a question I get all the time. Should team members be in the same table as contacts? I was thinking about this for a little bit. In this system, they are not going to be in the same. Now the caveat, the trickiest part of that is who is assigned to a particular task. And for that, we will use a collaborator field. We will try to use a collaborator field. We may have to use a linked record field. I'm not 100% sure yet. So one of the tricky things is in this system, there will be different users and there will be different contacts. So I think there will, on any task, because a task will have an owner of the task. And should the owner be pulling from the team members table or the contacts table? Well, it may be pulling from either, which is the tricky part. And I think I'll just keep those separate, which also I'll just deal with. It's either here's the owner of the task and it's a client contact, or here's the owner of the task and it's a team member. And so I think that's really the only way we're going to be able to do that effectively, because one other thing is I also want to use the team members table as an applicant tracking system. So I want to have a application form on this table to ingest new applicants, set up some automations to say schedule a call with them, an interview with them to hire them on. So I will be keeping those two separate. Now the next thing is reporting. let's see. I'm not sure I really need to go into depth on reporting because that's going to be one of the last things we do. But basically, we're going to have a reporting table. And I'm not going to clutter up this database, but basically reporting is linked to hours, to team members, to tasks, to CRM activities, to contacts, to companies, to invoices, to Zoom call recordings. It's linked to everything. And it is meant to aggregate all of the numbers and provide feedback on KPIs. So we won't do reporting today. It would just make everything look even more cluttered in here. So this so far, again, each of these are the different tables in Airtable and how they relate to each other. This is going to be the structure. Now, the next thing that I have on my list is protocols. And so protocols, you could think of these as processes. I'm going to hold off on building that into this system because I think the best system is going to be in Notion for protocols. And so we're going to keep that there. Notion, one of the really important tools I've seen a lot of my clients build is called an internal wiki. And you can try to do that in Airtable. That is one thing that using very structured data doesn't always work the best for it. And I find people liking the flexibility of Notion for the company wiki a lot more than trying to squeeze it into a really structured Airtable base. So I am going to build that in Notion and kind of explore some of Notion in doing so. Everything else we had was at the end. So that's pretty much all of most of the team management and customer management, other than everything up here to manage the essentially project management for customers. So this table, these tables up here, we already have a few things in here like milestones, work streams, work tickets, users, user stories, technical requirements. So one thing we've added since doing this is this tasks table down here. And tasks table, one thing I'm thinking about with that is how do I want to differentiate between a work ticket and a task? I'm thinking about this similarly to conceptualizing the applicant tracking system. Do I want to just have a table of employees, like the actual tasks, or do I want to make it to where it can be a free-flowing thing where people can apply into that table? So I think I want this table to not exist, and I want to have a work ticket form here. So a work ticket form would be submitted by a client, and I would say for now it'll be automatically assigned for me to figure out what to do with that. One thing people often also ask for are subtasks. So I'll want to find a way to incorporate subtasks into the system, which is always fun in Airtable. So no work tickets. Work tickets will flow into tasks. That way they can easily be assigned. Now the next thing, we have user stories. So I think that's perfect. Different users in the system. Just to use this system as an example, there'll be myself as a manager. There'll be my employees who will see all of the clients that they need to be able to see. And then there will be clients in the system, different contacts from the client that will be able to see different things. So that's pretty much how it'll work. Is those are different examples of users. So for me, I'll have 3 different users. This users table will actually be mapped out to show different user types that we're building for clients. So yeah, rather than these being users of the actual system, these are types of users for client systems that we're building. So again, these things in blue up here, these are tables in the system, but they're going to be very niche to what I'm building for myself to manage the client projects. Each client user has different user stories. For example, a good user story would be, for me, a customer logs into the system and they can easily do 3 things. They can easily book a call, a 30-minute or 60-minute call. They can easily see all of the hours they've paid for, and they can easily see all of the hours they've used, And I'm going to add a fourth thing. They can see any tasks that are currently assigned to them. That's it. So that would be a user story of them. Another user story for them, maybe they need to be able to, let's see, update a task to say it's completed, or request help on a task from the team, and what that experience looks like. But I would define those in different stories. One thing I was looking to build into milestones was an automated way to, like, say, based on the technical requirements and deliverables, automatically request NPS scores. There won't be a ton of milestones with each client, so I say that because I don't want to send like 1,000 NPS requests to clients all the time, but I want to find a way to automatically capture that, say, after a project is done. For example, I'm building this commissions base, and after that is done, I intend to, say, request NPS. If the NPS is good, maybe request a review. So another thing I'm thinking about is technical requirements and deliverables versus tasks. I'm not sure if I need to have separate tables here, or if I can I combine this with tasks? That's something I will be exploring once we actually build the database. And let's see. This is one that I'm not 100% sure that I need. Still to be determined. So the example of this is with different clients, I build different databases. I don't know if I want to have to split up things for each client by different databases. I think it might be simpler for the team to understand if we don't do this. But yeah, maybe looking into how can we combine milestones with work streams. That way, because one milestone, yeah. So that's what we'll be looking into, is can we combine or simplify the system in that way. That way, it's just not too complex to manage for the team and myself, and it just makes sense. So I don't want to add stuff in there just for the sake of adding it and saying, yeah, this is really the smart way to do it. I want to try to minimize the amount of thought that has to go into maintaining the system as well. So that's something I'll look into, is can we get rid of the work streams, or how do we, if we're working on 3 different things for a client, how do we separate each of those into different buckets, or do we do that? All right. So I think that's pretty much all of the back end of the Airtable system. These will be the different databases, the different tables required for the system. And previously I had put these in different databases, but now they're all going to be in the same Airtable database. So no more blue versus gold. If you have any questions on any of the structure in this, please throw it in the comments. Or if you have any questions on anything I said that you're not sure what it meant, again, throw it in the comments. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to answer. This is going to be the new database that we're building to manage clients, manage all their Zoom call recordings, tasks, whether it's for people on my team versus the client, and manage all of their projects. This is one of the, up here, this is one of the things I'm most excited for, because I currently don't have a great way of doing this at all. So I'm really excited to build that into the system and be able to handle multiple contacts per client. It's gonna be awesome. So I'm excited. So throw all your comments in the comment section, or I'll throw all your questions in the comment section below. And in our next video, we're going to be starting to build out this. We'll start exporting some data from different tools, like exporting Calendly calls, exporting contacts from my existing system. At some point, we're going to be redoing the toggle setup. So yeah, I'm excited. Stay tuned for the next video in this series, because we're going to be building all of this out via, hopefully as much as we can, via Integromat and Airtable, and eventually we'll look into what we're going to be doing with Notion. So thanks for watching, and I'll put the next video in the end screen right here so you can see the next stage of the build.